And we are here for the finals of the Indianapolis Open. It's Robert Wright, the youngster from Charlotte, North Carolina, making the trip up with Esper Dragons, the only Esper Dragons player to make day two. He'll face off against Andrew Funkhouser, 28-year-old from Tulsa. Saw Andrew dispatch Owen Turtenwald 2-0 last round in the rally mirror to make it here. We'll see if he can do one more win. This is against a deck which the question will be whether or not Andrew has a lot of preparation in this matchup.
I have to imagine that this was not in the gauntlet for Funkhouser.
No, if you think about the top, I would say 8 decks he prepped against, I'm not sure this would be on the list.
Well, I can give you 70 decks that made day 2 of this tournament, and only one of them is Esper Dragons.
So Funkhouser on the play makes a turn 2 Zulaport Cutthroat. It's one of his weaker starts, but it'll get in for 1 damage to put Robert down to 19. We'll see where his follow-up is. Just on Evolving Wilds and pass. This is a slow start and will provide a lot of room for Robert to build toward the late game.
Right.
And unlike last matchup, there's some pressure on Andrew to be the faster deck here. If the game goes late, you have to just think Robert's favored. He's the control.
Yeah, the longer the game goes, you're able to find your Slumgar Scorns, your Disdainful Strokes to keep Andrew off his haymakers, and 1-for-1 removal spells to deal with the creatures, Dragon Lord Ojutai to go over the top.
Solid play. So what happened here, on Robert's end step, Andrew went to fetch with Evolving Wilds. In response, Robert plays Foul Tongue Invocation, revealing a Dragon Lord Ojutai. So Robert gains 4, Andrew has to sacrifice a creature. Well, he only has 1, so the Cutthroat hits the graveyard.
Right.
Robert will go up on life. Now Andrew can find his land. But there's a bit of a read here for Funkhouser. If Robert's making that play, it's unlikely he's sitting on a card like Silumgar's Scorn.
Yeah, you know, you're going into the first turn when you can cast Collected Company and your opponent just tapped off of Counterspell Magic.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
That's telling.
Well, Collected Company helped Andrew bowl over Owen in the first game. He'd love to do that again. Doesn't have the green mana just yet. So his play is just Eily the Eternal Pilgrim. And there's the Forest. But in the first 4 turns, Andrew's only played 2 creatures, and neither of them are the signature parts of the deck. This is not the start he wants.
Right. A lot of pressure on Andrew to start finding more creatures to find a Collected Company.
So a Jace for Robert, leaving up 2 mana, still not leaving up double blues, and no respect for the counterspell. On Andrew's turn, he'll swing in with Eily, put Robert back down to 18. Robert did gain some life off that Foul Tongue, so staying high.
At this point, Andrew had the basic forest last turn, so if there is a Collected Company, you assume it would have had to come off the top. So this seems like a reasonable window to go for Jace.
So yeah, the progression is what Robert tells Andrew, I don't have a counterspell. And then Andrew looks back and says, well, I don't have a company. Advantage Robert in that situation.
I would have to say so.
Well, Andrew will try to draw into something, so we get an Elvish Visionary, Sidisi's Faithful, bouncing Jace, exploiting itself to the graveyard. So we'll keep Robert off the Jace. He has found a Rally the Ancestors, so that's the first high-impact card Andrew's drawn. But it's coming late and still not ready to be cast.
And on this turn, I have to imagine that Robert is slamming that Ojutai into play.
Yeah, fetches 2 lands down to 16. This is the part of Esper Dragons where it's mostly a control deck. It plays kill spells, counter spells, until it hits 5 mana, and then just slams its finisher. And that's the Dragon Lord Ojutai. Ojutai, a card dominating Standard for a while. It has really dropped out of favor, but this is the deck for it.
Right now, Rally the Ancestors Contesta's best deck. For a while, Esper Dragons was that deck.
Yeah, when it first came out, when Dragons Tarkir first started, this was the deck to beat. Andrew will swing in with Eily. Robert not wanting to make that trade. He'll go to 14.
Yeah, the Death Touch on Eily allowing Funkhouser to chip in some damage.
Yeah, Robert's still at a healthy 14, though. 5th land for Andrew. Can he pass? Is there any play he can make? He's just not pushing damage fast enough at the moment.
Looks like another Sidisi's Faithful in hand. Not the most exciting card in this matchup.
Yeah, he can sacrifice it to bounce Elvish Visionary and recast. That's not exciting, but it might be the play he makes.
Yeah, 3 mana to cycle a card.
Whoa. So the play for Andrew is Rally the Ancestors for 1. getting back Sidisi's Faithful, bouncing Visionary, and recasting to draw a card. I'm surprised to see that line.
Yeah, that is the definition of a low-value rally right there.
I mean, so what is he? He's digging for, I guess, just Catacomb Sifters, Nantuko Husks, big things. And now we see Transgress Their Mind from Robert. There was a collected company that Andrew had found, but Robert's going to make him discard it before he can cast it. It leaves Andrew with just Sidisi's Faithful and Reflector Mage.
Yeah, and the company was the kind of card that Funkhouser really wanted to find, but stripped from the hand before he has access to it.
So the swing in puts Funkhouser down to 15. The Reflector Mage will be live, as will the Faithful, at getting rid of this Ojutai. Well, temporarily. Andrew will play Sidisi's Faithful. We'll see if Robert responds. Almost certain that the Dragon will be the one unsummoned if this resolves.
Yeah, Funkhouser also has a Reflector Mage, so you have to pick which one you want to hold off for the next turn.
Yeah, I suppose Wright doesn't mind his Dragon getting unsummoned. It was the Reflector Mage he didn't want to have happen. And the top deck from Funkhouser, he drew another collected company. This is perfect. This is what can get him back in the game. So let's see if it does. Spin it up, get 2 creatures, and they're good ones. It's Reflector Mage, Nantuko Husk. The perfect top deck for Andrew. Back up against the wall. He'll connect for 3, put Robert down to 11. He's not out of the woods, but this is the way he can start.
Yeah, and he had the option to just cast a Reflector Mage out of his hand, chose to tap one more land and get the Nantuko Husk on top of it.
And I was wondering if this was going to happen. This is the Haymaker card that Robert plays here. It is Crux of Fate. Destroys all creatures in play. It's his 5-mana spell, 2 of it in the main deck. And Andrew has his top deck, but Robert is at the ready. He's been given too much time to find his answers.
Yeah, you check the type line on the rally deck, seeing as everything costs 3 or fewer mana, no dragons hanging out, clean sweeper, and Crux of Fate.
Just the consequence. If you give Robert's deck enough time, we said it earlier, he will punish you in the late game, and that is exactly what's happening.
This is the turn that Jace is unlocked. Of course, Ojutai is an option for Wright. Why not both?
Yeah, they are both bounced last turn by Andrew. He'll play them again. It's unlikely that Andrew can take care of them, especially as that Ojutai is untapped, so it's hexproof. You can't do anything to it until Robert's allowed to hit once and draw a card.
Yeah, in this position, there's very little that can go wrong on Wright's side. Rally the Ancestors doesn't even have that meaty of a graveyard. You know, there's a Nantuko Husk hanging out, but it can't do too much. So just like some DC's Faithful and just nonsense hanging out in Funkhouser's graveyard.
Reflector Mage bounces the Jace. Andrew plays his last card in hand. It's Evolving Wilds. He's now off the top of his deck. And 5-4 Ojutai versus 2-3 Reflector Mage. The Ojutai will win faster. Not to mention it draws cards along the way.
And what Wright is digging for is just some copies of Salumgar's Store to really wrap this game up. And why not the dig through time? That should help him quite a bit in that search.
Dragonlord Ojutai, not a remotely fair Magic card. We see that demonstrated again here.
And this is the feeling. If it didn't feel abysmal before.
Finds 2 Silumgar cards. He's just going to show them and ask if Andrew wants to continue playing. Those are 2 hard counter spells with the Dragonlord in play. It means that the next 2 cards that Andrew can draw will both be countered. In the meantime, Robert will attack twice with a 5-power creature. There just is no out on Andrew's side. And game 1 goes to Robert Wright and Esper Dragons.
You feel pretty demoralized just with the dig through time resolving.
And then he shows you that.
He shows you that, and then you just draw a blank. And that's more than enough for Funkhouser.
So Robert Wright deals Andrew Funkhouser his first game loss of the top 8. Now, for the first time, Andrew's going to have to battle back. We're going to go to the sideboards and see just how that's going to work. Let's start on Andrew's side. He has Dispel, Duress, Despise. It's time to see a pattern here. 1 mana D spells. 1 Minister of Pain, Arishan Cleric, Anafenza, and Murderous Cut. So I kind of like those 1 mana spells starting with D. Those all seem reasonable.
Dispel, Duress, excellent. Despise is one way to deal with Dragonlord Ojutai.
Right.
So there is some incentive to bring this card in. I'm not in love with it, but you don't want to just be dead to Ojutai. I think that the play just has to be to play the game on the board, but realistically, it wouldn't be super surprising to see Despise come in. But mostly Dispel, Duress, those are the big hits here.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert's side, game 1 has got to be, he's got to be feeling good having won game 1. because he's got a lot of cards in the sideboard for this matchup.
Yeah.
3 copies of Kalidas Trader to get. We've been seeing people play that all weekend against Rally. 2 Silk Wraps, a kill spell that exiles. That seems excellent. What else do we like, if anything?
Yeah, Kalidas, Silk Wrap. We have 1 Languish that we're probably bringing in just as a sweeper. Crux of Fate was great in that game. Languish is the same effect for 1 fewer mana. We could see Infinite Obliteration. I don't love it, but it is something you can do, just exile 1 type of creature from Funkhouser's deck.
So here's an interesting thing. I want to look at Duress. The highest impact cards in Andrew's deck are those Collected Companies and Rally the Ancestors. Now, I understand that Rob, there's only 8 cards, so Duress is not a great play. It may not even work. But at the same time, Robert's Esper Dragon's list is very short on actual counterspells. It has 1 Disdainful Stroke, 4 Silumgar Scorn, and that's where it stops. So does he want to supplement with Duresses?
I don't think you do with Duress, because he does have main deck Transgress the Mind. And while that...
Oh, okay. It can hit companies.
Right. It doesn't hit Rally the Ancestors expressly, though it does exile any 3-mana creature that you find, or just a collected company.
So maybe you can bank on those. Certainly, if he gets enough cards exiled with things like Silk Wrap and Transgress, he doesn't have to worry as much about Rally.
Right.
So for Robert Wright from North Carolina, South Carolina, Lake Willie, South Carolina, the 21-year-old, he's part of the team Disciples of Bolas. It's one of the newer teams that has shown up here in Season 1. He has 1 more top 8 before this. Was a chess club champion in high school and actually a painter as well as a Magic player.
Chess is a great way to build up your mental faculties. I think if you can figure out chess, figuring out Magic shouldn't be terribly difficult for you.
Yeah. Do you play a lot of chess?
I am miserably bad at chess. The big hurdle to get over is just memorizing a lot of starting strategies for chess, and I just don't have the discipline for that. But I take a casual interest in the game.
It is interesting. It's a game of complete public information, which is where I think it splits off from Magic, but certainly...
Yeah, one of my strengths as a Magic
player
player is my poker face, so the hidden information is huge for me. With chess, when it's just all on the table and they watch me make a terrible play, and they're just like, oh, so you're just stupid.
I know, it's the worst feeling, right? When you make a bad play, it's not like you can hide behind well, you don't know what's in my hand sort of reasoning.
You can't do anything confidently if it's just obvious that it's wrong.
Yeah. I've started playing a lot of backgammon in tournaments. It's the same thing as chess. Everything's on the board. And when you do something wrong, everybody you just get this look from your opponent of, oh, well, I guess you think that's right. And it's the worst.
Yep.
So, for you joining us in Season 1, this is coming to a close as we make our way toward next month's Columbus Invitational. We have this open here. We are in Baltimore in 3 weeks. And then it is on to the Columbus Invitational. So if you haven't gotten a chance to get one of the Kitchen Links playmats given away at our Opens, you're going to want to try to get your hands on one of those. Those are given away to our Open Series participants each weekend at the main event. So you get this free limited edition playmat. It's a parody of Kitchen Finks, if you didn't know that one already. That one, it's a lynx instead of a Finks. It's a cat instead of an oof.
Oh.
Yeah. There we go. See, they're still in the kitchen. It's the same art. Anyway, the last event you can get this is our Baltimore Open. That's on April 9th. Only given out to Open participants, so you're going to have to sign up for the main event for that one. Now, this means, though, next season we're doing something different with playmats, in that there's not just one awesome playmat about cats. We're going to have 3 playmats of actual Magic arts. So these are exclusive playmats with entry to Season 2 Opens and Classics. And the mat you will get actually depends on the format you're playing. So this is starting at the main event on Saturday in Columbus, at the Columbus Invitational. It's not the Invitational itself, but the Open that's weekend, all the way through the Syracuse Open in mid-August. You'll get one of these playmats. If it's a standard event, the art we're giving away is Sigarda Heron's Grace. So this is one of the legendary angels out of Shadows over Innistrad. This is actually the new Shadows over Innistrad art, not the old Sigarda art. All of these actually have an Innistrad theme. So we go over to the modern one. This is Ghost Quarter. So Ghost Quarter, modern staple, we saw it in Innistrad as well. Personally, I'm not a big fan of my opponents playing Ghost Quarter. It messes with things that I like to do with my lands, but good card in Modern, a great staple. For Legacy, we're going to what I believe is your favorite Legacy deck, Death and Taxes. It's Thalia, Garden of Thraben.
Death and Taxes is the deck more than any other deck in Magic history that I have lost to. As a Teamer Delver player, I am always very upset when my opponent leaves on basic planes, especially if there's an Aether Vial coming off of it.
Of all the cards in Legacy's history, the card they have chosen to register more than 4 of is Basic Plains.
Basic Plains is the worst card for me.
Just a big stack of them.
You can't wasteland it, you can't stifle it.
Play another Basic Plains.
Basic Plains is heinously oppressive in Legacy.
All right, well, those will be given out for all of Season 2. So starting at the Columbus Open, you can get any of these open playmats format specific. So we are back. Robert Wright, Andrew Funkhouser. Wright having to replace some sleeves on his deck, but we've gotten that taken care of. One more game for him will crown him the Indianapolis champion.
Yeah, he won his last match against Rally 2-0, so let's see if he can go 2-0 once again.
So Andrew will be on the play again. He was on the play last time. What really stood out to me was that Andrew's draw didn't have the requisite pressure to win a game. It was a turn 2 Zulaport Cutthroat into a turn 4 2-power creature. It just
it was just really slow. It didn't go
idly.
anywhere. There was no collected company on time or anything like that. It was just very far from delivering enough pressure to actually make Robert care too much.
Robert's going to go down to 6 cards here. Take a look at just what's on the line for this event. $5,000 to the winner and 30 SCG points. The finalists, they'll lose this match, $2,000 and 25 points. So this is quite the game for both of them. Both of them, as results of making the top 8, have received invites to the next Invitational, although that's coming up in Columbus. We've been talking about that. Great finishes for both players. Now, neither of them on the leaderboard right now. So those SCG points, if they choose to go for the year-end title of Player of the Year, they'll help them there. But it's probably too late at this point to get into the Season 1 race.
Right, won't be able to make it just off of this and one more open. Of course, we see Jeff Hoagland at over 100 points. I believe Lisette at exactly 100, something in that range.
Yeah, Hoagland with 3 top 8s this season. So, Funkhouser on the play. Starts on Evolving Wilds. It looks like Robert has kept his 6. And
I think the Dragons is more than fine taking the mulligan, certainly on the draw.
well, as long as he makes his way up to Ojutai, that card is a lot of virtual card advantage, right? It's this great blocker. It's a win con.
It's a 4-turn clock.
It's a 4-turn clock. It's a lot of things. But with every card he goes down, the chance that he doesn't have the Ojutai or get to the Ojutai does get higher. I mean, it's a control deck. It likes its cards.
Right. You know, now that we're post-sideboard, the access to the Languish coming out of the board is a relevant factor. He's able to make up more card advantage on the board.
All right, so Andrew Funkhouser fetching for 2 basics. It is Forest and Swamp. So for the second game in a row, he's not going to have a turn 2 Jace. We'll see if it's the Cutthroat or the Visionary. Looks like he'll play Elvish Visionary, drawing a card. So he has a 2-drop. We'll see if he can follow it up with something a little more substantial this time.
Yeah, Catacomb Sifter on turn 3 would be about the best case scenario.
Yeah, well, he may need to take a break to cast something else. It's a Jace turn 2 for Robert.
Now, Reflector Mage has become the best case scenario. Of course, with just Forest Swamp,
we can't play it.
Can't get there.
And we don't even know how many he still has in the deck. It's not a particularly good card in this matchup outside of the card Jace.
Yeah, like Reflector Mage and Sidisi's Faithful.
I suppose the Faithfuls go before the Mages do.
Yeah, but they might just all go.
We will see. There are some good turn 3 plays here, though, for Funkhouser. He's got, it looks like Nantuko Husk and Catacomb Sifter at the ready. Yeah, Robert saying, I'll block. Thank you.
I would attack for sure after my opponent did that.
Teach him a lesson. All right, so swing Robert. Yes, he blocks.
I don't like the attack right away. I would cast my other creature,
and
think
just so
about
they know
it,
you have something,
and then attack.
So it'll be Catacomb Sifter for Robert Wright. It brings 2 creatures into play. You said this was the 3-drop he wanted. It's a lot of power on the board. Robert will have to go looting.
Well, you know, there's the Jace active now, and Robert, I have caught a glimpse of a Salumgar's Scorn in hand.
Yeah, Robert discarding Dig Through Time there. He did play Flooded Strand, so he can get double blue to counter any spell. And I think he's going to have to. There is a possibility of Collected Company from Andrew. Now, here's something. Robert may have wanted to fetch for that blue source on his turn.
Yeah.
Now there's a problem. If Robert tries to crack that fetch land, Andrew can collect a company with that trigger on the stack. There's a small window for him.
Robert has the luxury of waiting until his next turn to crack the fetch if he so chooses, though at this point
As long as he has
in
another
time,
blue, he has to have another blue source to
that's
do
true.
that.
That's absolutely true.
Otherwise, yeah, the counterspell's down.
Funkhouser with the Scion is in range of having company with Dispel backup, though.
Yeah, how bad? So if you look at Robert, he does have another blue source, but it's sunken hollow. So Funkhouser just does nothing here for a while. He could really punish Robert for that land play.
Yeah.
Now, it looks like Andrew's going to let him off the hook. He's going to play a different card. So Robert can fetch his card in his blue source in peace. But it's, yeah, if he had missed that, that, and then it would mean that the next land would come into play tapped. It would be a real beating for Robert.
Yeah, the fetch on his turn definitely seems like the play.
And I think he knew it, too. He went to fetch something and went, wait, hold on.
Yeah, when Funkhouser cracked his fetch, Robert thought, well, what if I do this? Looked at 3 lands and an Eldrazi Scion.
It's like, oh. So Funkhouser's going to lead off on a second Elvish Visionary. It's just trying to make low commitment plays to the board while Robert has mana up. Now, the danger here is that if Funkhouser plays too conservatively, he's going to give Robert too much time.
Right.
Here's a fetch from Robert. Andrew will take the opportunity to murderous cut the Jace. I'm surprised to see that card actually in out of the sideboard, but I suppose it does kill Ojtai.
Yeah, having access to that is good, and also the Jace advantage is very important. So
yeah,
killing the Jace there, quite strong.
Yeah, it's actually great that Andrew pulled that one off. That's not irrelevant at all.
And we saw Robert on an earlier turn discard Dig Through Time, and now the option to use Jace to inevitably flash it back is off the table.
So Robert looted in response. He discarded a polluted Delta. Now he resolves that fetch land to get the island, and we continue playing.
Oh, there is another Dig Through Time in hand. 5 cards in the graveyard now.
You'd have to think when Robert discarded Dig Through Time that that's what was happening. But here's a tap out from Robert. It's a copy of Kalidas Trader to get. This is a bold shields down moment for Robert. Andrew's going to have to make the most of this.
Yeah, if there are still Reflector Mage in the deck, having one this turn would be quite a large swing. You'd be able to come in for 5 points of damage as well as put off that Kalidas on the following turn.
His worry is if he casts Collected Company and gets rid of this Kalidas, and Robert just untaps and casts Crux of Fate. Oh boy.
That would be bad.
So he's going to go for it, though. Here's Collected Company, 6 cards, putting 2 creatures into play. It looks like we found 2. It's going to be Jace, Nantuko, Husk. Decent enough.
Nice thing about Nantuko Husk is it makes it so you're able to sacrifice whatever creature ends up in combat with Kalidas, assuming things don't go wildly out of control here. So you get to turn off that lifelink, though your creatures are still being exiled and making zombies.
Yeah, I don't know how much I like that part of it. So Andrew has a mana up. If Robert has a sweeper here, this might be the end of the road for Andrew. We'll see what happens.
If Funkhouser is able to get a second Husk online unfettered, he can try to find a way to poke through for lethal, though that's looking quite unlikely.
Yeah, he needed a way to bounce that Kalidas, to put it back in Robert's hand. That passive ability on it. Whenever a creature dies, it will be put into graveyard. It is instead exiled, and Robert gets a 2/2 zombie. Dig Through Time from Robert Wright, delving the full 6.
One thing about playing against Esper Dragons instead of Jeskai Black is that Robert doesn't have access to, say, Radiant Flames.
Yeah, he can't end the game right now.
So that is good. However, this situation is still very unfavorable for Funkhouser.
Finds 2 cards. Another Dig Through Time and an Ojtai. And he'll just pass back. This 3/4 is doing a great job of holding down the fort, at least for the time being. I mean, Robert's got to worry that Andrew will just Reflector Mage this Kalidas, and then who knows what will happen after that.
Well, if there's a Reflector Mage on the Kalidas and Robert doesn't have a removal spell, he's just dead in Nantuko Husk. So that would be
that's easy then, yeah. Like, not actually that complicated of a line at all.
That's what you call a problem.
Well, Jace will get to flip this turn, and Andrew could flash back the Collected Company. He can go again, spin again, see if he finds a creature to get rid of that Kalidas.
Yeah, if he's able to resolve Collected Company, that'd be huge.
Yeah, you'd have to think the Fleshbag Marauder and Merciless Executioner are in the deck, right? It's great against Ojtai. It's good against Kalidas. Sacrificing creature is probably always good against Esper.
Yeah, you can tag Jace as well.
So a draw here. Looks like it might be a murderous cut. If so, I'll take it.
One thing about Funkhouser's sideboard, he doesn't have those 3-mana Edith creatures, so...
Oh, okay, that was Owen. Owen had those, but Andrew wasn't running them.
Right, so Owen might have been better suited in this matchup.
The discard is going to be Nantuko Husk. It's only the 4th card in Andrew's graveyard, so he is going to have to wait a turn to flashback Collected Company. And Catacomb Sifter's a play. Andrew is... He is all in on Robert not having a sweeper.
Yeah, like, what are his options, though? I think, you just have to keep committing, and if there is a sweeper, there's going to be a lot of zombies on the other side of the table pretty soon here.
I wonder if he's going to pay full value for a murderous cut here. If he did find that. He'll pass back. Robert gets one more turn.
Still concerned about Counterspell coming from Robert.
Yeah, and... Ooh, big play to rest. All right.
That'll force the issue.
Yeah. Absolutely not. We'll see how much Andrew delves. Does he want his Jace to be a planeswalker or a creature? Maybe he sacrifices 1 Scion? It's 1, 0, or 2, I suppose.
Those are the options. 1 for sure. And depending on how much more he wants to scry. If he likes this card, probably just take a card out of the graveyard.
Keep in mind he still gets to scry here because Kalitas has a non-token clause on it. So when the Scions die, Andrew will scry. He will not scry for any of his other creatures.
Right.
All right, so 1 mana and a delve of 1 is Murderous Cut on Kalitas. I mean, Robert can't let this happen if he has a counterspell, right?
There's just no way that you wouldn't fight over this. I can't
it's
imagine.
The game.
Yeah, you're just dead on the crackback.
All right, he will play Silumgar Scorn, revealing Ojatide. That part was important. There is 1 mana on Andrew's side.
Would have been a big mess step to not reveal that dragon.
So the duress still resolves. So the duress was still on the stack. Now Andrew shows the hand. I don't think his last card is a non-creature spell.
No.
It may just miss.
Not a lot of hits that you can really even find.
Yeah, it's Zulaport Cutthroat. Now, Kalitas has that covered.
Yeah.
It's just a 1/1 for now. So, Ojatide, we know in Robert's hand. We know there's a dig through time. Robert's thinking about attacking. Oh, goodness. I guess he's worried that Nantuko Husk just kills it. I mean, that can't be right. Nantuko Husk can't kill him here.
Nantuko Husk can kill him here.
No, he'd get all these zombies. Well, I guess there would be no blocks
You wait
then.
for right.
Yeah, okay.
So this attack is a display of strength. Robert is telling Funkhouser he has a removal spell for Nantuko Husk.
I mean, there's no way he can make this play without that.
Unclear if it's actually true, and it's not clear if Funkhouser can play around it.
He drew Rally of the Ancestors. That's no help. So Funkhouser is just going to try to get more resources. He will loot with Jace. Discard the Zulaport Cutthroat. Card's not doing much right now. Get Telepath Unbound. Maybe some Collected Company now. Or how about a Murderous Cut?
Interesting aspect of the Jace here. You get to turn Kalitas into a 1-power creature. You can just make a safe attack of turning all your creatures sideways, not sacrificing anything.
Wait, hold on. He can flashback Murderous Cut. And Robert can't counter. And if Robert counters, that's fine because Andrew kills him with the Husk. I don't understand Robert's attack.
Yeah, Robert's attack is very strange here.
See, so now the Jace flashes back cut. But this is all stuff that was on board. Robert knew about all of this. So the cut has flashback, and Nantuko Husk is going to swing. Along with the Catacomb Sifter that can. Yeah, all the creatures will get in here.
Yeah, I like this here, just making the attack with all of the creatures.
If Kalitas were still in play, I guess he would just block 1 Nantuko Husk. It wouldn't be very good. If your Kalitas were untapped, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't actually do much.
No, and in that case, Funkhouser would just be casting this Murderous Cut before declaring attacks.
Right, he's got to be racking his brain as to what's going on here. What is Robert's plan? I'm not sure he has one. So Murderous Cut takes care of Kalitas.
He says, I don't know what you're up to. I'm going to do this. Tell me if you're dead.
So 2, 4, 6. It looks like, yeah, he's just going to go ahead and start trying to go for the kill. So it's currently 9 damage. he can sack 3 more creatures and put it up to, is that 15? No, it can be 16, right?
Yeah, 16 exactly. So you have 2 creatures that aren't attacking and 2 1-power creatures that you can upgrade.
Sure, but how many creatures do you actually want to sink into this Nantuko Husk? I mean, Robert's attack, you told me yourself, felt like a murderous cut.
I have to imagine if you have cut, you play it in response to Kalitas dying to get a zombie.
Maybe, maybe not. There's some value in getting Andrew to bin his team here.
Could have, say, Foul Tongue Invocation.
Okay.
That could gain him enough life to survive this turn.
Yeah, that's not horrible. And you don't do that in response to the murderous cut because Andrew just sacrifices a Scion. You don't get anything.
Right.
All right, so this is exactly 16 damage on the board. Andrew has sacrificed most of his team to it. And Robert has nothing. We're on to game 3.
Yeah, and I think that the motivation for the Kalitas attack is to telegraph that you have something,
And
though
hope Andrew respects it.
the murderous cut and no response suggests that he did not. Funkhouser wasn't buying it.
So it's really a situation where Robert looks at the board and says, well, I've lost. Now how do I get Andrew to not kill me? He makes a bluff. Andrew does not respect the bluff and ends the game.
Yeah, the chess player making a bluff. Didn't end up working out.
That doesn't work in chess. You don't have to bluff people.
It's his chess background that bit him, I'm sure of it.
All right, well, he'll just have to win in the tactical play. We move on to game 3 here. Looking back toward the sideboards of the players. So we've seen some interesting things. So Kalitas's and Duresses are in play for Robert. Maybe not the whole set, but he has gone to Duress. We did see that. On Andrew's side, he's gone for Murderous Cut. Now, I still assume that Dispel and Duress are in the deck.
Right, and the Murderous Cut ended up being a relevant test spell there for the Kalitas, and in fact, if he didn't have access to them, he'd be digging for Reflector Mage as the only other way to deal with the Kalitas, and with 3 of them hanging out, I do like having this removal spell.
Yeah, that much makes sense.
Killed a Jace as well earlier in the game, and Jace advantage, of course, matters in any kind of Jace mirror.
So it's going to come down to this third game between Robert Wright and Andrew Funkhouser. Andrew taking that game off a slow start that ended up being more powerful there. Interesting one. Players are going to get ready for game 3. We're going to take a second. As we reach the end of March here, that means we have another month, which means we have another set of Star City Game Night promos. So if you haven't gotten one of these yet, you're going to want to go out to your local store here and find it. It's game night somewhere and in a lot of places near you. So what this means is stores around the country hosting StarCityGames.com game nights now have exclusive pins and foils given away to players each night of the week that they hold a game night. So we get exclusive ones of some of your favorite cards. In March, we've been giving away the Grim Llamamancer. These are all excellent cards. You're going to want to get these. That's the one that we have on our pins for this weekend. Next month, we're switching over to the Slobberin Mile Driver. So if you haven't played Magic Origins, there's a Goblin Pile Driver in there. And then in case you want a token that's a dog version of it, because I know I would, you can go ahead and go to Game Night and win it. And this is my favorite one's the one coming up next month, because this one's eternal playable Game Night pins and promos. And you want to say this one? This is
I do like nothing else. This is the Manatiri Mentor. Everyone's favorite cow of the sea-esque creature.
Oh, look at him. He's got such prowess. He's just beautiful.
Such prowess.
You can find out more of these as well as find a game night near you at starcitygames.com/game night.
The majestic Manatiri Mentor.
So Andrew, fighting back there with the rally deck, it does feel like in these games that Robert, there's a ton of pressure on him to just have Silumgar's Scorn every turn of the game. You mentioned that before, where he didn't have Dispels or Moonlights, the kind of cards that people normally fight against rally with.
And he also has a lot of expensive spells like Dragon Lord Ojitai, so not having that 1-mana counter pressures his mana in a big way, in addition to forcing him to have those Scorns exactly.
Yeah, now what I do like are cards like Crux of Fate and Languish. He's got more sweepers than most control decks in the format have. So he has that going for him. But you're right. If Andrew keeps hands just full of collected companies, it seems like it's going to spell trouble for Robert.
Yeah, you can get ahead on board if you can get your, say, Catacomb Sifter to resolve in the face of a Silumgar's Scorn. Either that gets countered and they're out of the counter for your collected company, or it's on the table and you're beating down for 3. So the rally position is interesting in this matchup.
So Funkhouser. This time it is his turn to go to 6 cards. Robert was on a mulligan last game. For the first time, Andrew will be on the draw, and that extra turn for Robert may be enough to help him bridge to Ojitai. He had Ojutai last game, but by the time he cast it, he was more or less dead. That face from Andrew, not one of confidence, but he's going to go with it. Quick scry to the bottom. You have to feel like he kept a hand that's missing something. We'll see if he finds it.
Any quick stride to the bottom usually feels like you're missing a land.
Or all you have are lands.
Yeah.
But yeah, your lands aren't team players. So 2 lands from Robert, no plays so far. Starts out off on Shambling Vent, so he's not representing Silumgar's Scorn, no Jace. There's actually really nothing he's representing here. I guess Grasp of Darkness is in his list if he wanted to fetch for a swamp here.
Yeah, it has Disdainful Stroke mana, but there will not be any targets for that one. This is not modern. You can't cast Thought Knot Seer on turn 2.
Yeah, I remember when Esper Dragon's previous format, there's actually a lot of strict mana requirements. It used to play Urborg in its deck so that it could cast cards like Silumgar's Scorn, and at the time it was Bioblight, but now it's Grasp of Darkness. You notice with starts like this, I'm watching Robert's deck, that was a loss.
Yeah.
There's, he can't cast too much. So Andrew will go for the turn 2 Jace. Robert will Grasp of Darkness it.
And
but
here, finding Swamp, you're 2
Right.
blue off of ever getting to Slumgar's Scorn.
Right, it's just not free. You'd see situations before where it'd be something like Island Urborg, and then grasping off that would be great.
And every time you fetch, you could go find Basic Island or Basic Plains. And
It was great, yeah. So we'll see if his mana was impacted. He draws an island for the turn. He'll play and pass. He does have the Silumgar Scorn in hand, but he's taken himself off it for a turn.
yeah, in most 3-drops, you can just let resolve.
Yeah, Robert has his cards at the ready. There's a Kalitas in hand. Dig Through Time, Silumgar Scorn. A lot of weapons at his disposal. He's kept the board clean so far. But the mana's making things awkward on him. It really set him back a turn here.
Right. In the early turns, Rally can't pull too far ahead. This is just turn 3. There's no 1-drops in the deck. So the real tests are yet to come.
All right, well, Andrew has his most aggressive play here. Turn 3 is Catacomb Sifter. So now 3 power on the board for Andrew. He has a clock. Robert will try to counter here with Kalitas.
3 power on the board for Robert.
Yeah, both of them playing 3/4s. They're about the same, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, last game, Andrew had plenty of murderous cuts for the Kalitas. We didn't see any Reflector Mages or Sidisi's Faithful, so we'll see if he can get the Vampire off the board.
Significant pressure to get on that and fast.
Yeah, this card is in the sideboard for the Rally deck.
Yes. Has applications in other matchups, though this is the highest impact, the big draw.
Well, he'll go for Collected Company. We talked about how this is Andrew's best card. See just what he can hit off it, hoping for a Reflector Mage. And I don't think he hit it. It looks like we have Nantuko Husk, Zulaport Cutthroat, a pair of fine cards, but in the face of Kalitas, a dangerous pick indeed.
Yeah, if Robert untaps and starts plucking away at these creatures,
It's going to be really bad for Andrew.
say he has Grasp of Darkness and the ability to leave up Silumgar's Scorn, it's going to be nigh impossible for Funkhouser to make that up.
Yeah, you have to think that Andrew didn't have choice of creatures there if he's picking Zulaport Cutthroat into an onboard Kalitas.
Right.
Do your worst here, Robert. We'll see just what it is. 2 Silumgar Scorns in Robert's hand. A Dig Through Time. I believe it may just be those cards and lands, so he may not have follow-up removal. He doesn't have much of anything. He does have triple blue. So it's still, yeah, that mana's getting back to him, right? He has 3 double blue cards, so he gets 1 spell this turn. And,
Yeah.
And his Scorns aren't actually counter spells yet.
Yeah, and if he can't reveal a dragon, Funkhouser has that Scion plus 4 lands, so
Yeah, might not counter anything.
unfortunately it looks like not casting a Collected Company.
Well, it's possible that Funkhouser just doesn't have much in play. So, well, Robert's bank on is he needs just a turn or 2 more to set up shop.
And he does have a Dig Through Time in hand, so will he be able to cast that on the end step and try to find some action?
Small light outage here. We're going to work on that one, but the players will continue to play.
Yeah, the Convention Center staff sending these guys a message.
Not yet. 1 game to go.
Finish your game and get out.
Elvish Visionary draws him the card. And there's the Reflector Mage he wanted. Quickly met by Silumgar Scorn, but there's a Scion on Andrew's side.
And
do you
see,
wonder
there's-
whether or not Robert just got a little ahead of himself?
There's that chess thing I'm talking about. Confidently plays Silumgar score. Funkhouser says, okay, I'll pay.
That's a huge misstep on Robert's side. If he can't, get out of that there. Okay, if he doesn't see the sign, I think he dig through times there and tries to hit Crux of Fate or something like that. This is...
Yeah, even with this fetch land, you get up to the number of cards in the graveyard, but you don't have blue mana left over to dig.
It's a huge misstep here for Robert, and one that may cost him the game. Big swing by Andrew, so we have Husk, Zulaport, Cutthroat, Sifter attacking in. So what can Robert do? Draw? He's down to 10. It's very likely he's dead next turn. Can he come back? He needs something like Crux of Fate. He needed that dig through time last turn to find the Crux of Fate. On board, there's 7 power on Andrew's side. There's a Zulaport Cutthroat in play. If Robert can't answer his board, he is dead. He cannot play Kalitas this turn.
If he has another fetch land, he has enough cards in graveyard to delve, dig through time, leaving up 4 mana, and find that 1 copy of Languish.
Okay, so that would be 5 in the yard. 3. No, he's mana short.
Right, he needs that other fetch land. He has the Flooded Strand here.
Oh, okay, he has a fetch land in play. Right, he can fetch down to try to find a 1 of Languish. There we go, putting some light back on it. Is it possible if he finds Foul Tongue Invocation plus Dragon that he gets himself an additional turn?
Yeah, you gain some life there, but there are some lines that Funkhouser would have to just close the door. There's an Entuco Husk and a Zulaport Cutthroat. That combination is very deadly.
So Robert plays the land and passes. No sweeper that he can get here. And Andrew knows he's closing in on the win here. He's going to fetch. This attack is lethal. There isn't that much Robert can do. If Andrew's play is strong enough here, it's going to play through all of Robert's outs.
Right. Just want to get some more creatures in play that you can go ahead and sacrifice to the Husk, trigger the Cutthroat. Wright needs a removal spell to stop this attack from being lethal. It's 7 on the board, plus whatever triggers happen.
Oh my, it may even be a Collected Company in hand for Funkhouser. If that's the case, this is going to be it. Activate of Shambling Vent for Robert. He's trying to hang on. He's going to try to chump block that Nantuko Husk to keep himself alive.
Funkhouser wisely does not attack with the Cutthroat because you don't want it to get caught in the vent. The plan is to sacrifice whatever the vent draws to blocks to the Husk, and if it's the Cutthroat, you won't be able to net those triggers before damage.
So Andrew's going to let the block happen. So maybe he doesn't have Collected Company in hand. We'll see here. The Husk will grow to 4/4. Robert drained for 1. Shambling Vent is down. It makes mana. Gains Robert 2. So Robert buys himself another turn with that play. And maybe it's enough. He can get another blue here.
Cast Dig Through Time.
So if Andrew had... So he mustn't have a... If he has a Collected Company in hand, he could have tried to company to bounce the Shambling Vent.
Right.
And maybe... we'll see if there's a kill here. Robert's going to fetch. Andrew's got to count. He has a Rally of the Ancestors. There's a chance that Robert's just dead here. If Andrew sacrifices the team, it drains Robert for 2. He rallies the Ancestors. We need to get a count on the creatures in his graveyard. It is possible Andrew just wins.
Right, just needs to be a couple more bodies.
And he's going to go for it. This is a chance to win. Robert goes down to 6 or 7. Now down to 6 for Zulaport Cutthroat dying.
Knows that there's no Dispels in Wright's deck, so 1 mana doesn't mean anything.
Rally the Ancestors on 3. We're going to take a look at Andrew's graveyard. Is there a Dispel? We know there isn't.
Does have a mana floating. Could be Disdainful Stroke, but it's not there.
Cutthroat, Sifter, Reflector Mage, Visionary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures. That's going to be enough. This looks like a win for Andrew. Sifter makes a creature. Every creature that dies, he deals 1 damage to Robert. Andrew has exactly 6 creatures brought back. He's going to sacrifice them one at a time. And there you have it. Robert extends the hand, and Andrew Funkhouser is your Indianapolis Open champion.
Very impressively navigated on those last turns there. Wisely holding back the Cutthroat to maximize combat on that turn. And then when Robert did not have access to Scorn mana, goes ahead and goes for the kill. Has it. Robert doesn't. Takes the tournament down.